Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Joe Otto is on his way. He's just getting out of a meeting. He should be here momentarily, but we want to start out as we're waiting for him, get started. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be doing a debate recap. Now, just like when we had the last debate recap, we can't talk about anything. It's a 90-minute debate, and we have an hour-long show here, so we're not going to be able to talk about everything. But a lot that I want to go over, especially in the mainstream media's coverage of the debate, that we couldn't get to last night in our post-game show. So thanks for joining us. Everyone, make sure that you hit the share button, hit the like button, comment on Facebook, on YouTube. Please do give us a thumbs up, a like. Please do hit the subscribe button, and then hit the bell for notifications. So I want to just sum up what I felt about the debate. And I think that this is the meme that's going viral everywhere. Mr. Producer, let's put up cut 15. This is my biggest takeaway from the debate.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Oh, it's so grating.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Oh, let's cut it. We're cutting it. Oh, it's so grating. Now, she is being praised as a hero, but if you actually look, right before he interrupted, she actually got interrupted by the moderator for going over time. So the moderator tried to take back the time. Pence then tried to step in, and she does this whole, strong women, excuse me, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. It was a total Karen moment. Excuse me, I'm speaking. I'm speaking here. Totally speaking. I'm too good at that impression. But this is how George Stephanopoulos describes the debate, that it was just a bunch of mansplaining. Let's go ahead and play cut one.
To you, because obviously Mike Pence is a former television commentator, does have a very calm demeanor, but I think a lot of people were noticing some mansplaining going on tonight.
I don't know. I didn't see it that way, George. It didn't come.
Mansplaining. So, to anyone who isn't woke and doesn't know what mansplaining is. Mansplaining is when a man explains something to a woman. And the idea behind that term mansplaining is that the man thinks he is correct when actually he isn't. Right? It's this idea that the man thinks by virtue of a man that he knows more than the woman. And it's like a condescending lecturing from a man to a woman. But in this moment, it's not mansplaining. Kamala Harris is just lying about things. She's just wrong about things. Right? They were going to do this no matter what. I don't think that there's anyone in the mainstream media who was going to actually honestly say that Mike Pence won. Even though Frank Luntz's focus group says Mike Pence won. Tons of focus groups say that Mike Pence won. Telemundo had another poll, said Mike Pence won. They deleted the poll. Can't have the truth getting out there. It was obvious that Mike Pence won. He was calm. He had a good demeanor. He picked her apart. He landed the zingers when he had to. And he wasn't saying, excuse me, I'm speaking. Excuse me. On YouTube, Selena says, last night you were as heated as I was. Yes, I was. Because, you know, and I think Mike Pence did a good job of not falling into that trap. That was the one time that he interrupted. And of course, mainstream media outlets were saying, he interrupted her. Ah! Amazing. And the official timekeeper, I actually saw, I think it was the AP, kept track of the time. Kamala Harris spoke for 38 minutes. Mike Pence spoke for 35. So the mainstream media's narrative that he was interrupting her constantly just isn't true. Just isn't true. But, and we kind of showed this next time when we do the debate, which everyone coming to us from last night's debate, welcome. Make sure you hit that share button on Facebook. Make sure you give us a thumbs up, like on YouTube. Next time, well, first let's deal with that. Trump says there isn't going to be it next time, at least next week. The Commission on Presidential Debates decided unilaterally they were going to change the rules, which they're not allowed to do without the actual candidate's approval. So they decided they were going to change the rules and have it be a virtual debate next week. Trump literally found out with the rest of us and said on television today, no way. I'm not doing that. No, that's stupid. And why would anyone want to let Joe Biden have a virtual debate? Just so we know what that means. Joe Biden sits in his basement and gets to answer the questions from his basement. We've already covered on this show in depth how Joe Biden uses a teleprompter in his basement, how he's fed cues and lines in an earpiece, and how he uses a teleprompter to respond to live interview questions. If this is a virtual debate, he's going to be fed the answers, right? You're not going to have the moment like last time where Trump had to stop him and remind him that he skipped over 2 when he was reading off his list, right? Biden was like 1, now 2, now 3, and Trump interjects, no, you're still on 2. We wouldn't have that moment because he'd be reading a teleprompter. Of course he'd cheat. Of course he would cheat. Why would anyone want to debate Joe Biden when Joe Biden's in his basement? Because you won't be debating Joe Biden. You'll be debating whoever his political staffer is in his ear. So no, of course Trump's not going to do that. Trump says he's going to do a rally instead. Now listen, I think that in the end, I think that Trump will probably renegotiate this. And if he can prove that he's tested negative 3, 4, 5, 6 times between now and then, I think that he'll be able to get this going. Even if the people asking the questions are remote and it's just Biden and Trump on stage with those stupid plexiglass things in between them. I think that ultimately happened. But as of right now, Trump's not showing up next week. He says he's doing a rally instead. That's going to freak out the leftists. That's going to piss them off. But anyway, it's just, I don't think that there was any way that the media would actually say Pence won. I don't think so. I don't think it's possible. I think that they went into that, no matter what they were going to say, that Kamala Harris got the best of him. But this is how you know that Mike Pence won. The day after, the most trending thing that happened from the debate was this. Let's go to cut 2.
To the men and women who serve in law enforcement, and I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day, that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that...
So a bug landed on Mike Pence's head. Now listen, anytime you have insects crawling in, it's not a good look. In fairness, Mike Pence probably had more product in his hair by weight than actual hair. His hair was glued up. So anyone who's had a bug land on gelled hair, like my, could be a little better. My hair is gelled up. If a bug landed right here, I wouldn't be able to feel it. What's amazing, though, is how the mainstream media responded to it. Now, this is a man from the Lincoln Project, which is that anti-Trump organization that's trying to remove Trump from office. Listen to how this Lincoln Project, I forget his name, we'll see on the screen. This guy from the Lincoln Project, anti-Trumper, listen to how he describes it, because he went on MSNBC and he described it as the mark of Satan. I kid you not. MSNBC aired footage from a guest saying that the fact that a bug landed on Mike Pence's hair, it is the mark of Satan. Let's watch cut 3.
Page. He broke the rules. He was blustering through the finish time on all of this stuff. And so if this was a normal debate, his behavior would have been scored very, very poorly. It would have been on the higher end of weird behavior. And not for nothing. I mean, I don't think it's ever a good sign when a fly lands on your head for 2 minutes. You know, that's a sign all through history of sin, and historically, biblically, maybe you wouldn't normally say this after, it's only safe to say this, after midnight, but, you know, a fly, he who commands the fly has always been seen historically as the mark of the devil. So I'm not
Steve,
relevant, but having the fly
now as a journalist, now I have to ask for the record, are you joking? Because the fly could have landed on anyone.
Yes, but it didn't. It landed on Mike Pence, and it says something. I don't think karmic about the status of the...
Sorry, are you joking? Yes. But it landed on Mike Pence's head, and it did that for a reason. That is MSNBC's coverage of a bug landing on Mike Pence's hair. Now, just now that we're on the discussion of bugs, I just want to make sure we go back to this. Let's play cut 4.
The brunt falls disproportionately on communities of color, exacerbating the need for environmental justice. Sorry, as a bug. Speaking of the environment.
Is he the devil? Is he Satan's spawn? Like when we made fun of it, we didn't make fun of him for being the devil. We made fun of it for the fact that he gave this speech in a bog. Of course he's going to have bugs flying all over him. Play that again, because it wasn't just the bug that he wiped off of his neck. Notice his right eyebrow. He's got a little creepy crawly up in there too. Let's play cut 4 again.
The brunt falls disproportionately on communities of color,
exacerbating
the need for environmental justice. Sorry, as a bug.
Big bug.
Speaking of the environment. These are interlocking crises.
So he had 2 bugs. But no, it wasn't over. Here's the next bug that went after Biden. And watch how it's chilling on his neck for a long time. Let's go ahead and play cut 5.
I believe that every American has a fundamental right to breathe clean air and drink clean water. I know that we haven't fulfilled that right yet. That's true of the million.
Play that again. Play cut 5 again.
I believe that every American has a fundamental right to breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Landing.
I know that we haven't fulfilled that right yet.
And it's still got the creepy crawling in his right eyebrow.
That's true of the million.
Yeah, so it's the mark of Satan that a fly landed on Mike Pence's hair indoors. But when Joe Biden is getting mobbed by bugs, oh no, it's not Satan. That's just nature. That's just the environment, as Joe Biden says. This is how despicable these people are. They actually are trying to turn off conservatives by suggesting that the vice president of the United States bears the mark of the beast. I mean, that's unbelievable. But that's the world we live in. But this is what I mean. The fact that Mike Pence having a bug in his hair, the fact that Mike Pence having a bug in his hair is what everyone's talking about. Tells you that Kamala Harris didn't win. Because if Kamala Harris landed an actual death blow, or as Biden liked to say it when Trump was in the hospital, a coup de grace. I mean, that's unbelievable. That Donald Trump was in the hospital and Joe Biden is on the campaign trail encouraging people to land the coup de grace. And anyone who doesn't know what that is, French, it's the death blow. It's the idea that when someone's wounded or injured or sick, it's basically a put them out of their misery, chop off their head, death blow. Donald Trump was in the hospital and Biden's running around encouraging people to help him land the death blow. Despicable. Mainstream media didn't cover it, just like the mainstream media didn't cover the fact that he told little children he can't wait to see them dancing when they're 4 years older. Nope, not allowed to mention that. Because if we mention that, that's without context. I have to tell you that the fact checkers have said that there is more context to Joe Biden's creepy statement that he wants to see children dancing when they're a little older. Can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. But very creepy. Still creepy nonetheless. But let's get into this, because the debate had really good moments to it. Let's go ahead and play this. This was a line from Mike Pence. He delivered it. And it's not, he didn't create this. It's a saying that people have said for years. But watch Kamala Harris's smug look and say, it's a good line. It's a good line. When Mike Pence tells her, you're entitled to your opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Let's play cut 6.
President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much.
Let's cut it. Great line, but you see her little smirk, like, it's a good line, and how she just shakes her head, like, no, no, no. She then went on to claim that she didn't actually ever say that she wanted to ban fracking. So I wanted to devote some time here to actually go back and play the tape. Now, if you've been watching Fox, you've probably seen the tape, but the other news outlets aren't playing it. They're going to let her get away with this claim that she has never supported banning fracking, or at least not recently supported banning fracking. So we're going to actually go back to the tape of her and Biden Before I do, I need to ask you again, hit that share button if you're on Facebook. Give us a like, leave some comments on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, the bell for notifications, and leave some comments as well. So let's go ahead and play this. This is Kamala Harris just last year in a town hall saying that, yes, she wants to ban fracking. Let's play cut 7.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. Yeah, so thank you.
So I want to play the beginning of it one more time. We'll cut it right afterwards. Ask yourself, she just said she does not want to ban fracking. Here she is in a town hall just last year saying the opposite. Let's play that clip one more time, just the beginning of it.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So
cut it. Ain't no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. And the audience applauds. But then last night, she said, shaking her head, nope, never said that. Never said that. Why am I doing like a Robert De Niro impression? That was weird. Never said that. Never said that. Yeah, she's just lying. Absolutely lying. And when Pence said that Biden supports banning fracking, she again said that that isn't true. She said that isn't true. So let's play the tape. This is put together by an organization. I forget the one, but we'll see in a second. Go ahead. Let's play cut 13.
No new
Americans for Tax Reform.
We are going to get rid of fossil fuels.
Well, like what about, say, stopping fracking and stopping pipe?
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends. Number one.
3 consecutive American presidents have enjoyed stints of explosive economic growth due to a boom in oil and natural gas production. As president, would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. No new fracking.
Wow. So with Harris, her campaign was so short, right? She got out before Iowa had even voted. That's how much of a failure she was. She didn't have the miles and miles of tape. Well, it's not real tape. It's digital now. But she didn't have the gigabytes and gigabytes of tape to play. We just had that one where she's asked and she says, yes, absolutely. I want to ban fracking. But with Biden, we're going to play it again. We're going to play it again because it's just so much. Like this idea that Mike Pence says you and Biden want to ban fracking. She says no, and that's just the end of it. And this is another point. Before we play that, this pissed me off last night. There was never enough time for Mike Pence to respond to the most important things. And I think that this was strategic on Kamala Harris's part. She knew when it was getting time for the end of the segment. She could tell when she was going to get the last word on the segment. And Biden did this too, where they either refuse to answer that question in the last part of the segment, or they answer it really quickly and go to another topic. There were times yesterday where she brought up Trump's ridiculous lie that he called all soldiers losers, right? The idea that he denigrated soldiers at Arlington, which no one has even claimed. She just made that up, right? All of these bogus, the Charlottesville hoax, she uses these when she thinks she's going to get the last word because the way the segments go, she knows that after she's done, they'll go to a next segment. So when Mike Pence tries to respond, the moderator says, oh, no, we have to go talk about climate change. That's how ridiculous last night was. And I think it's strategic on Kamala's part. I think she knew when she was going to get the last word, and she deliberately went for it. Oh, I can't forget. Mr. Producer, put up my screen real quick. So we played the video of Joe Biden with the bugs. Anyone doesn't know, one of the easiest ways, I do all the prep for the show with picking the actual videos and stuff. One of the easiest ways to do it is go on Twitter. And people post these videos on Twitter, and it's really easy to download them off Twitter, much easier than YouTube. So I go on Twitter and I download them. So I knew it said, okay, they're making fun of Pence with the bug, right? The bug find. Okay, very easy. Let me just go download, just like I did it 3 weeks ago. Go download all the videos about the bugs swarming all over Joe Biden. But if you go into Twitter, and maybe this is just me, but if you go into Twitter and you type Joe Biden bug, the videos aren't there. They have a kid laughing about how the bug was on Pence's hair. They have this complaining about Mike Pence having the bug. Then they have the kid talking about how he needs bug spray. They have Mike Pence, the bug on Mike Pence's head, talking about a bug bite on Joe. There's the giant bugs, but it's not an actual Twitter video. It's a YouTube link. So you keep going through all of this. You have to go all the way down here. And these were missing this morning. Someone, notice how none of these videos are actually Twitter embed videos. People take the videos and they post them to Twitter and they're saved on Twitter servers. Notice that, right? These are not there. They're not there anymore. Mr. Producer, take my screen down real quick. I'm going to show you the next part because this is where it gets pretty obvious that they're playing games. All right, put up my screen, Mr. Producer. So we're going to just go into Google. Joe Biden bug Twitter. Now, they might change this, but this is how it worked this morning when I was preparing for the show. So, right, you do the videos. Here, right here. Breaking 911 on Twitter. Huge bug attacks Joe Biden. Right? So Twitter has, Google has cached this. Google has said this video used to exist. Let's see if it still exists. His tweet is unavailable. They're actually purging the videos. And these were there just a couple days ago. Twitter is actually purging videos of Joe Biden getting attacked by bugs so that when you search for that, those videos, which would have ranked higher because they had tons of likes, tons of comments, they're just deleted. So this is what we talk about big tech putting their finger on the scale. I can't believe I actually caught this. Now, if anyone has a legitimate reason that this could happen, tell me, right? But all of a sudden, after Mike Pence has a bug on his head, you cannot find any actual Twitter videos in a search very easily of Joe Biden being swarmed. You can find them on YouTube, but they're just gone on Twitter. And I know they were there because that's how I pulled them. I still had the videos. That's how we were able to show them from 3 weeks ago, but that's how I pulled them. Twitter has purged it. And that's the proof. This tweet is unavailable because they don't want you to actually see that Joe Biden had a bug. They just want it all to be about Mike Pence. So we can go ahead and take that off the screen. I just wanted to make sure I showed that because I feel like I caught them on that one. But it seems obvious, right? I know that the videos were there because I pulled them 3 weeks ago, and now they're gone. Now they're gone. And if you search Joe Biden bug, you cannot find Twitter embedded versions of the videos of bugs attacking Joe Biden. You can find the YouTube ones, which are links. You can find Mike Pence getting a bug, and you can find Joe Biden's campaign's response to Pence getting attacked by a bug, but you can't actually find that video. And that is called an in-kind campaign contribution. It is illegal under federal law. It is illegal for a company to provide anything of value to a candidate for public office. So Twitter cannot legally take those videos down during a campaign year to make it impossible for you to find that. Because obviously, at a time when everyone's making fun of one candidate, not everyone, but the left is making fun of one candidate for having a bug on his head, for Twitter to go in and remove the videos of a bug landing on the other guy's head, that's an in-kind campaign contribution to one side, is illegal under federal law, and it carries serious jail time. But no, we can't talk about that. No, big tech, it's free speech. Free speech, that's what the right and left all say. Free speech. Free speech. Well, let's get back into this because there were a couple other moments. Let's talk about this. Mike Pence did a great job yesterday of trying to force the issue again on packing of the Supreme Court. If anyone doesn't know what that is, to pack, usually the court has been at 9 justices for 140, 150 years. We had a whole episode going through the history of it, but it's been set at 9. And it used to fluctuate before when you had the justices actually riding the circuit, which as the country was being expanded, whenever they added a new circuit court of appeals, they had to add another judge because that Supreme Court justice had to then ride the circuit, travel across the country, and also hear those appeals court rulings, appeals court hearings. When they got rid of riding the circuit, right, they kept it at 9, and every time they added a new circuit court of appeals, they just kept it at 9. When you want to pack the court, that's the idea that you're going to add judges to the bench. So when Democrats say they want to pack the court, which they're talking about, they're promising it. Chuck Schumer has said nothing's off the table and has said that court packing will be an option Democrats say that when they get the presidency, when they get the House, when they get the Senate, they will pass legislation to increase the number of justices on the Supreme Court to give them back a Democrat majority on the bench. That's called court packing. FDR tried it and he was smacked down. He thought the public would support it. They rose up against it. So Democrats understand that talking about court packing is a bad look. Historically, very bad. So every time they get asked, are you going to pack the court? You would think the answer would just be no, right? It's a very easy answer. No, I'm not going to pack the court. No, I'm not going to commit political suicide and pack the court. But they won't say that because they're silently promising their base that, yes, they will pack the court. So they're in this kind of catch-22, damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they admit they're going to pack the court, they're going to turn off everyone but make their base happy. If they say they won't pack the court, they're going to piss off their base. So they're just refusing to answer the question. It's astonishing. And when Biden did it, he got a little bit of pushback from the press, and they just stopped asking the question. Mike Pence last night brought it up and tried to pressure her into answering. And no surprise, she didn't do it. But at least Mike Pence got some zingers in along the way. Let's go ahead and play cut 8.
But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I can't do it. And she actually lied when she quoted Honest Abe Lincoln. It was actually a fake quote. It was a lie. She lied. Right? But she said, I'm so glad that you brought this up. Watch me proceed to not answer the question and sidestep it in a different way. I'm not going to give you your answer. Right? You can find online if you want. I'm not going to give that any airtime. But what I am going to do is I am going to show you Mike Pence's comeback. And this is what I mean. The moderator tried to change the subject. She literally refused to answer the question. The moderator then tried to give her political cover by changing the subject. But Mike Pence would not let it go without him getting the last word. Let's go ahead and play cut 9.
This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So maybe the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question. But I think the American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President.
Boom! Spot on. She ends her answer with, if you want to have a conversation about court packing, let's have that conversation. As if she didn't just completely sidestep the question. I mean, they think they can do this because they really believe that the media will give them a pass. And we saw that moderator immediately go. Now, if that moderator had any actual integrity, she would have said, well, wait a minute. You just refused to answer. Yes or no? Are you going to pack the Supreme Court? One word answer, yes or no. Right? Trump absolutely should refuse to answer a single question until Joe Biden answers that question. He should refuse to do anything. Right? That's what he should use the virtual debate for. Joe Biden, why will you not tell the American people whether or not you'll pack the Supreme Court? And she ends her answer with, if you want to have that conversation, let's have that conversation. And then Pence says, I just want to let the record show she didn't answer. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There was another moment in the debate, just like last time, where the moderator, the question out of that moderator, Susan Page, no, listen, she wrote a biography for Nancy Pelosi. It's no surprise that she's a leftist. Oh, yeah, she also wrote Barbara Bush's biography. I don't care. She wrote Nancy Pelosi's biography. Madam Speaker is what it was called. She's not an impartial moderator. I thought she did much better than Chris Wallace, which is amazing. She actually called out Kamala Harris on a couple of falsehoods related to the Green New Deal, the fact that the Green New Deal is on the campaign website. There were good moments there. But she kept letting Kamala Harris get away with lies and refusing to let Pence respond to them. So I want to play this. This is where the moderator, I thought, was one of the most despicable questions. Instead of asking openly, will you accept the results of the election? She phrased the question of what happens if Donald Trump refuses to accept the results of the election. Which let's just be real for a second. Let's pause for a second. In 2000, The election was in limbo for 36 days, while Florida's count went through the lower courts and all the way up to the Supreme Courts. That was 36 days of neither candidate accepting the results of the election. They fought it in court for 36 days. This routinely happens. If you remember last time, 4 years ago, there were fights, I believe it was Pennsylvania, Michigan, and it might have been Wisconsin, to try and overturn the results. There were court fights where Democrats were fighting court fights with the Green Party and whatnot. They were fighting court fights to try and overturn the results. And as we're about to see, Mike Pence brilliantly brought up to say, how can you talk about not trying to overturn the 2020 election when Democrats still haven't gotten over 2016 and have spent 4 years trying to overturn our results? But it's stunning how she actually presented the question of what if Trump refuses to concede, when throughout our history there have been moments where results have been challenged. That is the reason that we're supposed to have a result on November 3rd, because the Electoral College, I believe it has to meet on December 12th, December 15th, early to mid-December, the Electoral College is supposed to meet. So you don't have a ton of time in between Election Day and the Electoral College meeting. So when you have these states saying, oh, we're going to count any ballot that comes in for 3 weeks after the election, there's no actual time. If you're not going to certify the results for the election for 2 to 3 weeks after November 3rd, there isn't enough time between that November 17th or that November 24th and the early to mid-December deadline for the Electoral College to meet. There's not enough time to actually challenge results. And that's how scummy this whole scheme is. Democrats running around the country trying to extend the deadline for counting, to extend the deadline to certify the results, to give Trump less time to challenge them, or to give Biden more time to challenge other results. It's so scummy. It's so unbelievably scummy. But Pence had a great answer for this last night. And he said, I don't want to talk about 2020. I want to talk about how she and the Democrats still won't accept the results from 2016. Let's go ahead and play cut 10.
The movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then, Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting.
See? Excellent response. If you were on the stream last night, I was screaming at the computer monitor for Pence to bring up Russia earlier in the debate. I'm so glad that he got it in there at the end. But it's absolutely true. He's like, how can you talk about Trump not honoring the results when Hillary Clinton is advising Joe Biden under no circumstance to accept the results if he loses? Right? Where you have John Podesta taking part in Democrat war games. This is not fake news. John Podesta taking part in Democrat war games where they war gamed out. Let me pull it up. They war gamed out the actual results of the election. And just anyone who doesn't know what war game, it's people play different roles and you have hypotheticals. Well, if this happens, what do you do? What do you do? To try and find all the potential outcomes. It's a war game. So John Podesta war gamed it out and he played Joe Biden. And what happened was he refused to accept the results. He refused to accept the results, which led to a secession of California and then a civil war. Go ahead, Mr. Producer. Let's put up on my screen. This is an article from one website. It's absolutely true. It happened. Why am I getting flowers ads? That's weird. This is absolutely true. Actually, let's go to the Breitbart. Let's give them a little love. Here, Democrats, they worked it out. John Podesta ran the war game as Joe Biden. And they ran the hypothetical. Okay, Trump narrowly wins. What do, John Podesta, if you are Joe Biden? You refuse to accept the results. He encourages California and the West Coast to secede and then launches a civil war. That's what the Democrats are war gaming out. And she has the gall to get up there in front of 80 million people and say, well, what will you do if Donald Trump doesn't accept the results? When Democrats are already refusing to accept the results if they don't like it. That's why they're saying, no, you have to count ballots for an extra 3 weeks. Because they don't think they're going to get all of their ballots counted on Election Day because they won't exist, right? So I'm tired of hearing about Donald Trump not honoring the results of the election when they're actually wargaming it out for a potential civil war. Unbelievable. Go ahead and take that off my screen, Mr. Producer. Let's see the results of the poll right now. I like it. I like it. So we have the poll on screen right now. Who won the debate last night? Pence or Harris? And I just clicked to show up, and it'll take a little bit. 99% says Pence. 149 people said Pence. One person said Harris. I love these polls. They help me get a feel for how many trolls are in the audience. So you'll see a lot of times we'll put up Facebook polls, and they'll just be completely one-sided. Like, is Donald Trump good? And I yes, no. And I just use the no's to get a feel for how many trolls there are, so I know how many people I need to ban that given day. But this is completely almost unanimous. 99% Pence, 1% Harris. I'll reopen the poll. Maybe there's some Harris supporters lingering out there, afraid to give us an answer. But yeah, it's I thought that was a great answer from Pence. It was a great answer. And this is actually where it got me last night. If you didn't know, we played a drinking game last night. And the drinking game almost got me. And I'll show you why in a second. What almost got me was the fact that I included a rule in the drinking game. Let me find it. I'll put it up on the screen real quickly. Here we go. All right, Mr. Producer, go to my screen. So these were the rules from the debate last night. And I was really nervous about this. But I said, surely Kamala Harris will not mention the fine people hoax, the fine people lie, the idea that Donald Trump called white supremacists fine people, because it's been so widely discredited. Joe Biden said it a week prior, and he'd been criticized by the media. That was a complete lie. I said, surely it's safe. So one of the rules for last night was finish your drink if Kamala Harris mentions the fine people lie about Charlottesville. I said, surely she won't do it. But sure enough, she did. Let's go ahead and take this down, Mr. Producer, and let's go to cut 11.
On the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs, and Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides.
You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people.
Wonderful. I was so glad that Pence actually took a stab at her, because it's just not true. I'm not going to play the clip again. We've played it hundreds of times on this show. Not hundreds, probably dozens of times. The idea that after Trump said there's fine people on both sides, he got on a little bit of a tangent and he went back to the thought and says, and I want to let you know, I'm not talking about white supremacists, neo-Nazis. They should be condemned totally. That was his words. I'm actually pretty confident that that was a direct quote. They should be condemned totally. I'm actually confident that I just got that quote exactly. He said that. It was like 50, 52, 54 seconds after he said fine people. He then said it, and make sure you understand, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis. They didn't care. Kamala Harris didn't care. She just lied in front of the entire country and claimed that Donald Trump said something that he didn't say. And thank goodness Mike Pence called her out on it. Thank goodness. I think that a lot of that happened to do with who was actually advising Pence last night. He had a really good team. He had a really good team put in place to advise him. I just thought he did a great job. He He knew it was coming. He had the one-liners. I mean, Scott Walker did an excellent job. Scott Walker, I believe, led Pence's debate prep team. And they coached him to say, okay, they're probably going to say the fine people. You better be ready. And sure enough, he was. So I thought that was excellent. If only the mainstream media had done the same kind of fact-checking. But then Kamala Harris, well, actually, she said this earlier. It's not chronological. Kamala Harris also repeated the lie that Donald Trump called the coronavirus itself a hoax. Let's go ahead and play cut 12.
They knew and they covered it up.
That was a short video. Oh, no, now I'm full screen. Mr. Producer, where'd my background go? Josh. There we go. Bad Josh. Everyone in the comment section, tell Josh that he's bad boy for skipping last night. Yeah, Josh, my stream failed halfway through. Hope you have that on your conscience. I hope you got to bed at a reasonable hour. Just kidding, but really not. Everyone in the comment section, let Josh know how disappointed you were that he went to bed early last night. Let me know what you think about it. He's typing in the comment section. I'm so sorry. But yeah, no, she repeated the lie that Trump said the coronavirus is a hoax. So let's just go ahead. Go to my screen. Let's pull it up. This is from the Associated Press. Can we do it? Josh, here we go. This is AP fact check. Biden distorts Trump's word on virus hoax. And the video said Trump in public hoax, Trump in private killer. But that's not true. What Donald Trump said is that Democrats were going to use it as a hoax, meaning that they were going to turn this into a political weapon to try and get Trump removed from office, just like they did impeachment. And this is the direct quote. Trump said, quote, now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. They tried the impeachment hoax, and this is a hoax. Not that the virus is a hoax, that the Democrats were using it to try and remove him from office, saying that he isn't doing a good job, which that narrative has taken root remarkably, that Trump hasn't done a good enough job. And I really did like when Pence went after them for that, because Pence was very clear with it, that when Kamala Harris went down her list of everything that they wanted to do to fight the coronavirus, Pence did not pull any punches. He said, you're just saying everything that we've done and we continue to do. And the best line, which he's not going to get credit for because the mainstream media will not dig up Joe Biden's past because they want him to win. Pence called Biden a plagiarist, not just with the Trump-Pence COVID plan, but with other things as well. Let's go ahead and play cut 14.
The Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism.
Now, if anyone doesn't know, Joe Biden has been accused of plagiarism throughout his career. There was a speech that Joe Biden gave, I believe it was in the 80s, and he actually lifted the speech word for word from a Scottish politician. Let's get, I want to make sure I get this right. Plagiarize, Scottish. I mean, it was like a completely plagiarism. And here we go. Mr. Producer, go ahead and put up my screen. Accept the terms. Oh, no. No, we can't. Hold on. I got to go back. To find it. Come on. Here we go. Joe Biden's 1988 campaign. So he actually plagiarized a speech by a man named Neil Kinnock, leader of the British Labour Party. He just completely ripped it off. Like, he ripped it off to the point where it was just like a complete rip-off. He thought that no one would catch him. And that back then, before the advent of the internet, I'm sure he could probably get away with things like this. So his speech, the actual speech that the British Labour Party leader said was, he said, "Why am I the first Kinnock in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? Why is Glenys, his wife, the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? Was it because all our predecessors were thick?" And then Biden's speech said, I started thinking as I was coming over here, why is it that Joe Biden was the first in his family ever to go to his university? Points to his wife. Why is it that my wife, who's sitting there in the audience, is the first in her family ever to go to college? Is it because our fathers and mothers were not bright? So obviously he can't say thick because that's a British slang for not bright. He completely lifted it. Absolutely lifted it. And he had to basically leave his campaign in '88 in shame because he was plagiarizing. There are other plagiarism moments. We've got to take that off the screen, Mr. Producer. But he literally plagiarized it word for word, down to even the stage instructions of pointing. Yeah, I also see that Joe Biden's campaign message, Build Back Better. That's not even Joe Biden's message. He took that from the conservatives in the UK. That was Boris Johnson's message. Weeks before Joe Biden ever said it, Boris Johnson was saying, we're going to build back and we're going to build back better. And Joe Biden said, you know what? That sounds like a good campaign slogan. And all of a sudden, it's everywhere. Build back better. He can't even come up with a unique slogan. Now, I get it. Donald Trump, Make America Great Again, wasn't the first person to say that. I completely get that. Ronald Reagan said it before him. I get it. But Joe Biden plagiarized it just weeks after it was said. Trump's is an homage to Ronald Reagan. Biden's is just taking it from the British conservatives, from Boris Johnson. Unbelievable. So when Pence calls him a plagiarist, that you're just copying our thing. Yeah, they are. Unbelievable. Let's see what else we can go through. We got the fact check. Oh, here we go. The false quote. Put up my screen, Mr. Producer. The false quote that Abraham Lincoln declined to fill a Supreme Court seat because it was so close to the election. No, he declined to fill the seat because the Senate was out of session. He filled it the day they got back into session. So that was a lie, right? When he said, he didn't do it because it was so close to the election. Lincoln knew he was going to win the election. All the states that would have voted against him had just left the union. Of course he was going to win the re-election, right? Of course. The other side didn't even consider themselves part of the United States of America anymore. It was false. He didn't refuse to fill it because it was so close. He didn't fill it because the Senate was out of session. So he waited for the Senate to get back into session, and as soon as they were back in session, he filled it. Now, he could have done a recess appointment. Yeah, he absolutely could have. But he didn't. He waited for it to go back into session. Let's see what else we got. Kamala Harris's claims that the Trump economy only benefits the rich. I thought this was a great moment. Pence scored points on this. When Kamala Harris said on day one, we're going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Now, I get it. People say tax cuts aren't perfect. I got a little pissed off at them because it made the process harder. I'm someone who likes to itemize my deductions, so giving me a bigger standard deduction doesn't help me, right? I like to itemize. But one of the things that, and obviously they got rid of things like you can't deduct moving expenses anymore. They got rid of things, the state and local tax deductions, which I think was ridiculous. The SALT taxes, basically the idea that if you pay high property taxes in a state like New Jersey, New York, California, you can then write those property taxes off. That was giving states an incentive to increase their property taxes because people could just write it off as a tax deduction, right? So states were increasing their property taxes with saying, hey, it's okay, just write it off, it's fine. And meanwhile, the federal government's getting less revenue in the door. There were things like that I didn't like, right? But the Trump tax cuts also doubled the child tax credit, meaning if you are a family of 4, you get $2,000 extra in your pocket every year until your kid is an adult. 18? Yeah, 18. Until your kid's 18. So when they say that they're going to revoke the Trump tax cuts on day one, what they're talking about doing is every family of 4 is immediately going to lose $2,000. Immediately. And as Pence is saying, you're absolutely going to raise taxes because they're claiming we're not going to raise taxes on anyone who makes under $400,000. But the people who write off the child tax credit and need that money are making a lot less than $400,000. I'm going to claim it this year. I claimed it last year because my son was born. I'm about to have another kid. I'm going to get double. I love that. Saying that all of a sudden you're going to take $2,000 away from me, it's a lie. The claim that they're not going to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 is just a lie, right? You look at other things with the Green New Deal where they want to increase the gasoline tax, impose things like carbon taxes. That affects people. You can't, they're trying to get away with a statement like a George H.W. Bush statement of, I read my lips, no new taxes. They're trying to say that without actually having to be held accountable for it. No, of course they're going to raise taxes. Of course they're going to raise taxes. Listen, people who make under $400,000 have money in the stock market. When you increase capital gains taxes, you're also increasing the taxes on those people if they happen to get a gain, right? If you sell your house and you're making less than $400,000, you sell your house under their plan, you could get hit with a huge tax burden under capital gains if your house appreciated over the years. You're making less than 400 grand, but you're going to have to pay more taxes on that home sale because it appreciated, because you gained from that capital. They're just lying. They're just completely lying. I'm not even an I'm not even an economist. But I can see this from the 40,000 foot view that, yeah, if you do that, X, Y, and Z is going to happen to average Americans. But they try to get away with it. They try and say that, oh no, we're not going to raise anyone's taxes. Oh no. Listen, when George W. Bush said, read my lips, no new taxes, and then they were able to pin taxes on him, he was done. They're trying to say no new taxes. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has this plan. Everyone's getting free college, but we promise we won't raise your taxes. Everyone's getting free health care, but we won't raise your taxes a cent. It's a lie. It's a lie. There isn't enough money in the upper echelons of the rich to pay for everything they want. Right? A $2 trillion Green New Deal without raising taxes? How's that going to work? It isn't. Of course they're going to raise taxes. Everything's going to be more expensive. Right? Just by increasing the minimum wage makes everything more expensive. If you increase the minimum wage at somewhere like McDonald's, right, one of two things are going to happen. Either McDonald's is going to go to more automation, or they're going to increase the prices of their food to account for their increased labor costs. Right? So what happens to everyone who goes to somewhere like McDonald's or any restaurant for that matter? They start paying more for basic items, basic foods. That's a tax increase. I'm sorry, it's not taxes paid to the government, but you're taking money out of my pocket to fund one of your feel-good programs. Oh, no, we're not going to raise your taxes if you're under 400,000. I mean, it's just insane. It's absolutely insane. And I think, I don't want to get too far off on this. I think I mentioned this on the podcast before. I think a lot of what we're seeing from the left is a continuation of that idea of, oh, you're a business owner. You can afford to pay $15 an hour minimum wage. You can afford that. The left actually believes that every business owner has a safe in the back full of money. And if they weren't so greedy and they weren't so miserly, if they weren't so miserly, they would actually give that money to their employees, but they keep it for themselves. It's the same logic that led to the lockdowns. This idea like, oh, it's only going to be 2 weeks. You're a business owner. You have that pile of money in the back. You can afford 2 weeks of no money in and paying payroll. And then as it goes on months and months and months, notice how they still think that small businesses can just weather this. Like, oh, they can weather it. They have all that money in the back. No, they don't. A lot of business owners don't even collect a paycheck, right? They make sure their employees get paid before they do. There's no secret stash of money in the back that's going to pay for all this crap. There just isn't. But that's what Democrats believe. They've decided who's going to be the winners, who's going to be the losers. They've decided that small business owners, remember Obama, you didn't build this, someone else made that happen. They believe that small business owners haven't paid their fair share. Well, how are you going to increase taxes on small business owners when you just didn't let them do any business for the better part of a year? Like, God willing, we're able to get through these damn lockdowns. And if not, we're going to remove all these idiots from office and lift them ourselves. But eventually, when we get through these lockdowns, businesses are going to have to start making money. Because the ones that stayed open, make no mistake, they're in debt. And if they're not in debt, they've gone through their entire savings just to be able to keep the lights on, keep the doors open. So once we get through this, they're going to have to start making serious cash to either pay back their debtors or to pay themselves back all the extra that they've actually invested in their company. And here the Democrats come swooping in and saying, oh, well, yep, lockdown's over. I mean, did you see in New York? Did you see in New York that Andrew Cuomo actually signed an executive order continuing the lockdowns until November 3rd? Did anyone see that? He's not even pretending anymore. In New York, the lockdowns will not end until after the election. They won't end. He's keeping it in place until Election Day. He could have picked any day. He didn't have to pick Election Day, but he did. It's just kind of like how the schools in Washington, D.C. go back to in-person learning the Monday after the election. How in Los Angeles, local health officials were caught saying that they're when talking about timelines, oh, this isn't going to go into effect until after the election. If you're a local health official, the word election shouldn't even be in your lexicon. You're talking about keeping people healthy. No, you don't measure a deadline by election day unless you want to make it political. So once election day comes around, a lot of these things are going to end. A lot of these lockdowns are going to end. People are going to be allowed to go back to work. What's going on in New York City, where on one side of the road, you're allowed to buy tacos. On the other side of the road, you're not allowed to go in and buy tacos. Covered this a couple days ago. Amazing in New York City. They are actually implementing lockdowns based on your zip code, which anyone who's been in New York knows that the zip codes butt up right against each other. And on one side on the road, it's one zip code. On the other side of the road, it's another zip code. So they're literally going to be shutting down businesses, non-essential businesses on one side, keeping them open on the other, limiting church attendance on one side, but keeping mosque attendance on the other side at higher levels, right? Saying if you're Jewish, you can't go to this synagogue, but if you go onto the subway and go one stop, that synagogue's open. It just doesn't make sense. We're going to get past this. If we win, we'll get past it. If Trump loses, Democrats aren't going to keep this going. They're not going to give Joe Biden a lockdown economy. They're going to open it. And when that happens, the businesses that expect to be able to finally do business again are going to be hit with the biggest tax burden they've ever even conceptualized. You think it's bad when the government says no one's allowed to do business? Wait until the government comes in and says you need to fund the Green New Deal. You need to fund Medicare for all. You need to fund free college for all. You need to fund child care for everyone. You need to fund a higher minimum wage. I can go forever, right? You need to fund giving health care to illegal aliens. They're going to go down the list. And who's going to pay that? It's not the rich. The rich are going to leave. The rich are going to go to Barbados or any other country that isn't going to tax them like that. And they're just going to leave. They're not going to sit here and say, yes, please, can I have another? They're going to leave. And it's going to be us that are going to be stuck with the bill. Just like what we see in places like New Jersey, New York, tax and spend, tax and spend. As soon as they shut down the businesses, all of a sudden they have less tax coming in. They're raising property taxes. Not just on the rich. The rich have liquidity. The rich can just sell their home and move. But the mom and pop store owners, the brick and mortar store owners, the people who actually have roots in their community, they can't just pick up and move to get away from higher property taxes. That's what New Jersey's doing. They're raising property taxes to pay for the budget deficits caused by their lockdowns. We're all going to get hit. Absolutely, we're all going to get hit if Joe Biden wins. This idea that they are not going to raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000, it's just a lie. It's like that old saying, with socialism, eventually you run out of other people's money. Yeah, when those other people leave, which we're seeing in New York, mass exodus of the wealthy leaving New York City. Some are staying in New York State. Others are going to Florida, Texas, places where there's no state income tax. That's what we're going to see. And everyone's taxes will go up. Everyone's taxes will go up. Well, I just went on a rant. I hope it was coherent. I think it was coherent. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. I hope we did a good job of going through last night's debate. There was a lot to talk about. Couldn't fit everything in. Basically, Kamala Harris was a sassy little bee. Sorry, not sorry. Mike Pence was poised, centered, and good with his delivery. The moderator was so-so. A couple times where she called Kamala Harris out on a lie, but far too often she allowed Kamala Harris to go overtime, spout nonsense, and then refused to let Mike Pence actually respond to it. Unofficial tally says that Kamala Harris talked for 38 minutes. Mike Pence talked for 35. Mainstream media saying that Pence was constantly interrupting. Maybe it's because she kept going overtime. So that's our take on it. We will be covering the next debates. I want you to leave a comment in the comment section what you think about this. The drinking game wasn't that bad last night. And as I get closer to my wife's due date, I have to drink less and less because at any moment I could have to jump in a car and drive her there. So for the next one, if it happens, even if it doesn't happen, instead of a drinking game, I want to do a hot wing challenge with Joe, drag him into the studio with a hot wing challenge. And every single section of the debate, when they go through all the topics, just like if you've ever seen that show Hot Ones, you have to eat a hot wing that's a little bit spicier and spicier and spicier until you get to the one that burns your mouth off. And all through that experience, we have to keep providing political commentary to you guys. I think that would be fun, a way to get beyond the drinking game aspect. And we still have the drinking game. I just can't get super drunk. People asking how I was last night. I was fine. I had 5 beers. Couldn't do 8. Last week before I did 8, and that was but last night 5 over a 2-3 hour period wasn't bad. But I think that's what we're going to do. Yes, Zach, I should redo the lie counter. And next time I also want to do a counter for a stopwatch to see who talks more in real time. I think that'd be really effective. So let me know in the comment section what you think about that. I think it'd be a nice way for me to get away from alcohol, since really at any moment my wife's water can break and I have to get in the car, and I can't do it if I'm completely plastered. So let me know what you think of that, and we'll plan out the next one. Trump has said it won't happen. I think they're going to renegotiate and make it happen. Who knows, though? Who knows? Either way, I want to do a hot wing competition with political commentary. I think it'd be really funny. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast. Please do, if you have an iPhone or a MacBook, please do check the link in the description to give us a review, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We're trying to break into the top 100 political podcasts in America. We need your help to do it. So please go there if you haven't already. Very easy to do. Also, make sure that if you don't have an iPhone, you can subscribe to the audio version on Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Podbean. Please do it. We're really, really growing the audio version of the podcast, and we want to keep doing it. It's actually been great because Facebook has been throttling us. So it's a good way to keep growing, keep making progress. If you're listening to the audio version, you can still subscribe to our YouTube channel or like and follow our Facebook page so you can watch us live. We go live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you like and follow those pages as well. There's also a link to join our email newsletter. That's important. If we get taken down by Facebook or YouTube, that's how we're going to keep you up to date and how we're going to keep the show going. So make sure you check out the link and sign up for our email newsletter. And also, if you're on Parler, make sure you follow us at Conservative Daily. I'd be happy to follow you back. We follow back everyone. So again, that's going to be it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Remember that the fight to take back our country clearly isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together.